Hey, everybody, it's Lou Santiago, and I want you guys to know we have, in my opinion, the coolest guest ever tonight. That's right, the coolest guy. His name is Dennis McCarthy. And let me tell you something. I wish I had his job. Well, maybe not the stress level, but it's definitely a cool job. And so will you after tonight. Because if you don't know who Dennis McCarthy is, I was ready to say McCartney. He doesn't sing. This is another guy. This guy's better. You will, and you will dig what he does. So we're going to do a quick break, come back with John. We're going to talk a little bit, and then going to bring in Dennis. So you guys sit back, enjoy the ride. Let's do this. 3 lefts don't make a right.
What you need to do is check out DEI, Design Engineering Incorporated. They keep the heat out so you're not sweating to death. Check them out.
John,
I'm here. I'm here as usual. So,
dude, I almost said McCartney.
I heard you.
I was like, what the hell? That's like when I was talking about Tom Bailey. Someone said that I said Tom Davis or something like that. I don't know. I might have. If I did, I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah, in the message to me, it's a Davis. I went with what you said. I got corrected Davis a couple times on social media saying, "Nah, it's Bailey." I'm like, "You're right." I said, "It's Lou. What do you want from me?"
Yeah, I admit I'm a train wreck. I try not to do that. But hey, before we really get crazy, guys, at 45 minutes into the show, 215-469-81. God, see, the dyslexia is kicking in. 215-469-1892. That's the number to call in. Now, remember, don't be a wanker about it. Be civilized, all right? So what do you got going on today, John? I mean, we got some cool stuff happening.
I think Dennis is a cool guest. I got to tell you that I talked to him a few times on the phone a couple of years back, and there was a couple stories he told me that I hope he hits on tonight. One of them was they wrecked a car in Europe for, I think it was a Fast and Furious movie, but he said that they had to FedEx a car, pushed it onto an airplane. They were shutting down production. The paint was still wet. The coolest thing, though, is this is the part I like most, because when we pay to go see a movie and something pops up, whether it's a charger, it's whatever it is, and you go, "Oh, look at that. That's cool as shit." Dennis is the guy that makes the decision that says this belongs here. This car fits this character. They give him the script and he makes it fit. He suits them up with the appropriate car, appropriate actions. If they're going to drop it out of a plane, they're going to do something crazy with it, need it to drive backwards at 80 miles an hour. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Figures it out, makes it happen. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The roughest part, I think, is trying to fit it within a budget. I have no idea how you would do that, because within 3 seconds, sometimes they're destroying the thing.
Yeah. And think about it. He's probably building a serious amount of cars. So he's got a small army that he's dealing with to get these cars done, too.
My memory's not as good as it used to be, but I thought he told me 300 in a matter of months on some projects. 300 cars.
Really?
Can you imagine that?
That's insane, man. That's insane.
You want to run through on the top of the list? You go through some of his projects that he's done.
Some of the movies that he's done. He's supplied cars for these: Bruce Almighty, Batman Begins, Meet the Fockers, Live Free, Die Hard, The Green Hornet, Batman vs Superman, Captain Marvel, Jumanji, Black Panther, and of course, Fast. So yeah, he's done some serious movies, man. Which is cool, because if you look at it, they're all different types of cars. It's not just one genre that he's got here. So that's really neat. But real quick. Don't you have Horse TV next week?
I do. Actually, I got Horse TV tomorrow. I got to jet out to Ohio.
Okay.
So I got to shoot. It's the 45-day meetup for the trainers for the rescue program.
Okay.
Ken and Ryan are going too.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, the producer and director behind the scenes here. We're all heading out. But yeah, we just got done the trailer. I posted it online. Horse TV loves the trailer for it. So everything's heading in the right direction. But enough about me. Nobody gives a shit about what I'm doing.
I was just curious. You got a problem?
Dennis probably has 2 hours worth of material to go through.
Let's screwing around. Dennis has got, and his time is important. His time, he's a busy man, unlike us. So you guys remember, at the 45-minute mark, we're going to start taking calls. 215-469-1892. When we get back, it's going to be Dennis talking about cool cars.
Wait a minute. One thing for you, Jeff.
What?
Ryan said he was getting calls all through the night, the whole weekend, people 2 a.m. throughout the weekend because it was going to his cell phone. If you're not watching it live, of course, Ryan knows now how to shut it off now. He figured all that out. But if you're not watching live, you can't call in live. You're going to get a recording. But he said he had 1 million recordings. He said everything was all backed up. So I just wanted to tell you that,
I think that's funny.
The last show with Rawlings did 300 and some thousand people or some nonsense. It was a pretty big deal. We had a lot of viewers on that. Just wanted to tell.
Wonder what happened to your favorite Hollywood stars? Some are screen legends.
Some
made history.
What do you say? Is it the new Bluesmobile or what?
One thing's for sure, they all have more to tell. Road trip with me, Lou Santiago, as I hunt down these iconic cars.
The car's actually stolen. My kids said, Dad, you're not going to believe what's over here.
And take you behind the scenes to get the story behind the story.
I'm gonna have the car do the same thing. Pow, bang, wow.
From the designers who built them, the stars that drove them, and the lucky motherfuckers who stumbled across them. Where was his car when you found it? Pull in there. Dude, tell me you have your hands on it. You're not gonna believe some of this stuff.
Yo, the Iconic is tonight. I mean, we're actually doing an episode of Iconic.
I know, it's insane.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
So we get to figure out who, what, where.
There he
is in his shop. Dennis, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing?
Hanging in there, man. Doing what we do. Causing problems. I got Dennis, before we get any further, what's the deal with that Tri-5 behind you at 57?
Yeah, that car's it's a car that I worked at a shop when I was 16 years old. This guy used to come in to buy race gas, and it was just on my list of cars to have. The guy unfortunately passed away about 7-8 years ago, and I know the kids. After a little bit of time, I ended up finally striking a deal, but it's a bitchin' car. It's a 4-speed factory fuel injected car, and it just sits right. It's just got a slam.
Really?
It's just slam. It's got the real magnesium wheels on it, but it just, it just has the right look, if you guys can see it at all.
That car's badass.
Yeah, it's just one of those cars that I don't drive it a lot, but when I do, I'm definitely smiling. So
right. That's badass. That's badass.
Dennis, when we talked the other day, we were ironing out today the schedule. You said you were on a stunt gig. Tell us about what your day's like on an average day. What did you do?
Yeah,
what does that include?
Yesterday, and this is the one thing about my business, everything changes, it seems like, by the minute. So the stunt I was referring to yesterday changed into just a test today. But I'm doing a movie right now with being directed by a really good friend of mine, JJ Perry. It's a movie about vampires and trophy trucks and dirt bikes and all my favorite things. Maybe not the vampire part being one of my favorites, but all the automotive and motorized vehicles being one of my favorites. But so we were just doing some shock valving testing, doing some jumps. It's a shot where it has to clear a fence that's about 6 feet. With the arc, the thing will be probably 12 feet in the air and land on the highway. So, not a bad day at work when you get to go out and be on some off-road stuff.
So wait a minute. My question's always been, when you see stuff like that, how do you guys figure out the speed, the arc? How do you figure that all out? There's got to be some kind of formula, right?
Well, there's two ways, and it depends on who you're working with. I've worked with stunt coordinators and effects coordinators that will literally spend, weeks plotting it out on a computer program and, doing all sorts of math. And then there's other guys that can look at it and go, yeah, I think that's going to be right at about 70 miles an hour. It's going to be perfect. You might try with a dirt bike first, hit it with a motorcycle. Yeah, it looks good, which is really the way that I prefer. And both ways work. Don't get me wrong. Both are always successful. But the movie I'm on right now, it's been more about, these guys have a ton of experience. It's JJ Perry is actually a stuntman by, originally, and now he's a director. But, the guys he hires are the best in the business, and, they can look at a situation and know what it's going to take to get it done.
Right.
Smaller, you start a little bit slower, you just kind of work your way up. And, I think at the end of the day, that method actually is a little more efficient. Obviously, if you're doing something crazy huge, yeah, then you want to do everything possible. But for what we're doing on this one, it's more Dukes of Hazzard style. Just getting some big air and making it work. So.
Do you end up trashing that? I mean, at the beginning, do you know when you're testing it, there's going to be a test where you're going to trash it? The car that you worked with recently, yesterday, is it a Survivor? And how do you prep for that? How do you build a car out to be able to survive?
So today's an easy one because the truck we're using actually is an off-road race truck. So it was designed to do it. So
yeah,
does it with absolutely effortless. Now, if we were jumping, whatever, a Dodge Charger, a Crown Vic, and we were doing the same jump on the pavement, which we've done, it's not going to be a Survivor. So in that case, if we're dealing with an expensive car, I'll try to find a stand-in car, almost a stunt car for the stunt car. Something like maybe if it's a brand new Charger or a Hellcat, we're going to find like maybe a Dodge, or we'll find like maybe a Ford Crown Vic. Something the same weight. We'll scale it. We'll add weight. We'll subtract weight. We'll get the balance right, and we'll jump a $1,500 car for testing, and that way we're not just throwing money away. So
right, makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
You gotta worry, because I'm sure the budgets are pretty ridiculous at times, and then you got to stay within that. Right? I would imagine.
Yeah. So no matter what the budget is, the goal is to stay within the budget.
Right.
I've done movies that have literally $150,000 budget to movies that have $20 million budget. So there's a huge range that I deal with, and but yes, don't ever give them one number. Just like getting your car work done. You go drop the car off to get a motor put in it. The guy tells you it's $5,500. You don't want to show up and pay $7,500. So
right,
exact concept with the studios. They're not going to like it if I give them a number and I don't stick to it.
Got you. That's crazy.
That's pretty interesting. Dennis, let's back up. Let's back up, because this is not something you wake up or go to school, or you have to have experience in what you're doing, or somebody's going to get hurt. You're going to lose money. It's pretty, Lou, like we were talking, and Lou said at the intro, it's a pretty cool job. There's cool jobs, but this is a pretty cool job to be doing this for a living and jumping cars, building cars, and figuring out what fits what. But you didn't wake up knowing this. Tell us how you got started. Tell us from the beginning, who was your influence and how did you get into the movies?
Well, I guess I'll start by saying this is a business that I didn't know even existed. I've always been into cars from day one. I think since I was born, I've been into cars, so that's always what I've worked on, played with, whether it was bicycles, go-karts, mini bikes, you name it. Right out of high school, I think it was more of a punishment. My parents were like so sick of me working on cars and going to street races and all that stuff. It was a punishment to send me away to a trade school. It's like, I'm saying that, if all you're going to do is work on cars, then we're sending you out of here. It's like, all right. So anyways, I ended up in Arizona at a school, literally the morning after I graduated from high school. And, just had a great time. Once again, I was hanging out with a whole bunch of car guys. When I was in high school, 12 of us that were pretty hardcore into it. Once I went to this automotive school, it's like, man, everybody here's into cars. So I instantly ended up getting into more trouble in Arizona than I got into in high school because, I was just with that crowd, So,
right.
So anyways, that just really kind of led into, pretty much all my jobs as a kid were at speed shops or at, automotive shops or worked at a dyno shop. And I think, I don't think I was 21. I opened up my first business, working on hot rods. Because I realized early on this was a huge mistake on my part. I realized I didn't want to change, a water pump on a Ford Granada. I didn't want to do a trans and a Pinto. I wanted to put a V8 in a Vega. I'm going back to the 80s here, but because I figured that's where the money's at. I soon and quickly realized that the money is not in working on hot rods. You can be passionate about it. You can want to do it. And granted, there are ways to make a lot of money in it. But from an automotive shop standpoint, I realized maybe a few years after doing nothing but hot rods, that the studio fleet accounts actually made money. Car comes in, it comes out.
Yeah.
Sitting there on the bandsaw grinding and making a set of headers fit for 4 hours that you can only charge the customer an hour and a half to install them. So I learned quickly that I had to do both. So, which is part of what led me to what I do today, because I picked up a couple of accounts with one was NBC Studios, and I had a really great account with Disney studios, basically servicing and maintaining all their cars, from vehicles to stake beds to semis, everything. And what that really did is it kind of it got me exposed into the studios, because I would drive in and out of these lots to drop off cars, pick up cars, and vice versa. Drivers for the studios would come into my shop, and there was always something cool there that we're working on, which led me to a producer that was into cars. So I started working on his personal cars. That in turn led me to building the first cars for a movie, which was back, probably back in 1998. And, and that was cool. I did some work on a movie. I go, wow, this is pretty interesting. This is something different. First thing you notice is their budget is bigger than the guy coming in to get that starter plumbing truck. It's like, wow, this seems really interesting. And what shocked me was, and this is the first time I'd ever experienced this, they said, hey, we want you to come out to set and just stand by. I go, just stand by? Yeah, just stand by in case something breaks or goes wrong. Okay, great. So I would go out there, I'd sit there for 12 hours, 15 hours, and get paid for doing nothing. So it was like the weirdest concept to me ever.
Yeah.
All these cars and get everything out the door, but now these guys are paying me just in case something broke. So, a little bit more time went on, and it just got more and more interesting. And, at some point I made that decision, you know what? This is what I need to do, and it seemed, especially going back then, there were not that many car guys doing what I did. It seemed like I kind of had a niche at that point where, wow, this is, I'm going to be in demand. Movie cars are always needed. And I think previously to that, there's always exceptions. There's some great guys back in those days. But, movie cars were kind of, just make it work. Just, he wants to slide it. Well, just, tighten up the e-brake cable and, put a pair of vice grips on the e-brake release.
Yeah, I've done that.
Of stunt car prep. If it was a rollover car, they would do something like say, hey, why don't you just tie a rope to the ground so if he flips a car, he can grab the rope and tuck himself down, So we've completely changed that. Obviously, nowadays, if we're going to wreck a car or crash a car, we build it basically to race car standards. The roll cage, the seat, seat belt mounting is critical. The mounting is critical. Head and neck restraint. It's really, in the time I've been in this business, it has come so far. It's unbelievable. And on the plus side of that, guys don't get hurt. I haven't seen a guy get hurt for 10, 12 years. Knock on sheet metal. But it's really I feel just come up to another level.
That's cool.
Dennis, who was your influences early? Who did you work with early on? There's somebody else that was doing the job, slightly doing the job. Who was your guy?
Well, that's the funny thing. When I got into this business, I didn't have anybody to show me what to do. You know what I mean? I came into this business, movie cars, just kind of doing it my own way, and I did probably 3 or 4 movies that way. Just basically buying the movies like I did at my own automotive shop,
Right.
Customer satisfaction was just kind of my goal. And I felt when I got in this business that customer satisfaction wasn't the normal. It was more of a union job. It's like, hey, that's what you get, and hope you like it. Whereas I, on the other hand, was trying for 100% satisfaction. So I think that's one of the things that's really allowed me to excel in this business and keep it all going.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know from doing TV that you have cars that are TV done. They don't care if it runs or not. It's TV done. And as long as the show is done, they're happy. So I know exactly what you're talking about, because Jared and myself, we would always be, no, we got to do it right. We got to do it right. And they would get mad at us. They get, it's like, dude, it's our name that's on the line, Yeah, it's crazy.
That's something too that kind of changed when I got into this business. When I came into this business, the vehicles in a TV show or a feature were handled by the transportation department. Now, the transportation department handles all the trailers, all the moving, all the trucks, basically moving the entire company wherever it needs to go. And so cars were always kind of like a sideline. Oh yeah, transportation, they handle the cars, but it wasn't their main gig. So when I got into this, it was just really by circumstance it was actually on Tokyo Drift that I started and basically established Picture Cars as its own entity. So I didn't work under yeah, there you go. Good shot of that was our Tokyo Drift warehouse. So, and the reason that I was able to separate from transportation on that is because we started so early to prep all these cars, there was not a transportation quarter on the show. So I basically did the transportation side of picture cars, which would include, drivers, stake bed, fuel truck, car carriers, all that, and the building, the mechanics, the equipment, the support, everything needed. And it's really just kind of turned, the business of picture cars into its own department and its own entity. And, transportation does their thing. We do our thing.
Wow. Dude, that's awesome. You
that result, across the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's fast forward. That's the beginning of some of the workings of it. But from what I read, and maybe you even told me this, they hand you a script, and I'm guessing you're one of the first guys they give it to. You're in that team, or one of the first that tries to figure out where, how, who, and what. So they hand you a script, and they go, "We need this car to do this, or we need this vehicle to, be able to look this way." Tell us about that process, and I'm more curious too about sizing up, picking out a vehicle, one to fit the need, and two to fit the personality of whoever that is, to make it, because it has to be cool physical person. It has to, if it's a villain, it's got to be, an evil looking car. So it has to fit. It's like wardrobe almost, but a vehicle. Tell us about that process of receiving that script and what that's all about.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's really like a casting agent trying to put the right character in the movie. We're trying to put the right car in the movie with the right character. So, getting the script early, like you mentioned, is true, but that really only applies to a car movie. If it's a movie all about cars, then that would be absolutely the case. There's I've had a lot of great, that's one of my favorite parts. To give you an example, with the Fast and Furious franchise, Chris Morgan's done more of them than anybody else, at least that I've worked on. Actually, no, he has written more than anybody else. And he would start talking to me very early on during the process, saying, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What car should we have here?" And it's great to be, in on that at those early stages, because it prevents the studio or other people getting their minds set on something that's not correct. So the right car is in the right place, and like you mentioned, it's about putting the right car, matching the car with the character. And so my goal would be, if there's a car movie, you got a whole bunch of vehicles, that you could basically look at that lineup and you would know, hey, that's for so-and-so. That car fits. The audience would already know just by the look of the car, what character it's for. And then the other big element is trying to figure out what does a car have to do on screen? What is the terrain? What environment is it working in? Is it in the dirt? It's on pavement? Is it a road course? Is it a car where you're going to have some drift type action going on? All those type of things. And, like I said, it's really just kind of narrowing everything down and saying, okay, this car works. And when I get it down to that point, that's when I'll usually show, the director, the production designer, the studio head, hey, this is what I envisioned for this. What do you think? And, it's extremely rare that they say, man, I've got a different idea. I would say, 99 out of 100, it's like, I love it, but every once in a while there's director might have a different vision, and that's great. When they do, we adjust, we scratch what we thought up and start all over again. And, make sure that, I guess at the end of the day, you just want to make sure everybody's happy and the right car is on screen and it does its job.
Right. So on average, how long, like the Green Hornet car, how long would it take you to build one of those? I'm sure you've standardized as much as you could, right?
Yeah, the Green Hornet, that was a great movie from a picture car standpoint. We actually built 29 of those Chryslers.
Wow.
And the biggest challenge on that film was just trying to track them down. They're not an abundant car. We were getting those cars. I think we got one out of Canada, one out of Florida. That's how far away we were going to track those cars down. And I would say, if it was just a stunt car, which the stunt cars would include, we were putting, at that point, I was just putting like crate big blocks. They had that ZZ 454 motor, which was pretty nice aluminum head, worked great. We were running those motors, turbo 400 trans, and a Ford 9-inch in it. And they worked great. It was just a really cool stunt car. But I would say beginning to end, that would be probably a 2.5 week, 3 week process max from the time we get the car, paint, body, Stunt cars have very minimal interior, which saves a tremendous amount of time. But getting the drivetrain in, getting the exhaust done on it. One of the biggest challenges on that was getting the steering to work right. You know, it was the way that Chrysler's laid out. It has this gigantic steering box, and it wasn't really practical at that point to redesign the front suspension, the front steering. We just didn't have that kind of time. And I was trying to get a General Motors pump to work with the Chrysler box, and there's a guy here in Sun Valley that's, you know, one of the old time experts, Tommy Lee. And I remember, man, it's something that you would think would be simple and you wouldn't foresee having that issue. But that was one of the biggest challenges, was just getting a pump that would operate with the Chrysler box. And the problem we kept having, it kept stuffing the release valve into it and sticking it, you know. But anyways, you know, those things you come across. And that's one that I'll probably never come across again, because it's not a very, common combination you have right there.
Right. Well, those are Chrysler Imperials, right? Weren't they?
They were.
They look like the Imperial, yeah, see?
Sure were, yeah. I think they were, we could go 64, 5, and 6. There were some various differences, but those were the 3 years that we could pull from right there.
That's wild. See, that just seems like fun to me. I mean, just having to do stuff like that, just figuring stuff out. That's just awesome. So when you turn around and you get these cars done and you ship them there and they wreck one, what happens then? I mean, do you ship extra cars, or do you have to move it? Like, they give you a certain amount of time to get them from point A to point B?
Yeah, so like on Green Hornet film, it was pretty easy. You know, like if we're going out for a night of a chase where I know there's a lot of impacting and car on car contact, we'll bring 7, 8 cars out. So as they wreck cars or smash a fender or quarter pound of the tire where the car can't be drivable anymore, we just roll out the next car, repair that car. I'll have guys on set, maybe 6, 7 guys, everything you need to rebuild the car, fix the car, body work. One of the tricks we use is we'll get it as smooth as we can, slather on some Bondo, and put black vinyl over it, right? Just
yeah.
Looks great on screen. As the car's blowing by at 60 miles an hour, you can't tell.
Right.
And it's just kind of this cycle you keep going. And then most of that movie was night shoots. So then first thing in the morning, the cars all come back to the shop, go through them all again, bring them back out for the next night. And you just keep that cycle going, round and around and around. 24-hour deal, really. And if the car is total beyond repair, like if the car's hit where, okay, we're not fixing that one, then it goes back to the shop in the morning. Everything is pulled off of it. Motor, trans, rear end, suspension, anything salvageable. It's organized. It's put in our spare parts trailer. So we just keep upping our, amount of spare parts.
Right.
Still running. And if you time it right and you plan properly, by the end of the movie, you'll have a couple cars left that are running, but you'll never have any downtime. So that's all. No downtime.
Yeah. Dennis, let's say you're talking about the ones that are crap when you're finished, that are tore up. But what happens to the ones that are still, like the hero car, that's still Survivor, and you have 2? You usually have 1, right? Typically, one for
it varies studio to studio, and there's a lot of different circumstances there. I mean, for instance, on the Green Hornet, I think I know that the actor that played Kato, I know that he got one. I think Seth Rogen got one. And there was a couple others that were still left, and I don't know whatever happened to those ones. On a Fast and Furious film, they have a pretty busy afterlife. We tour those cars all over the place. They go to different countries. They go to events. Frequently, they'll end up in a museum later on. Sometimes, like for instance, you have the Fast 8 Charger there. Like a lot of times, we'll take a chassis from the Fast 8 Charger that was still left at Universal. We'll cut that body off, and that will then become a Fast 9 Charger. So frequently we'll just recycle cars, just to it just speeds up the process because we've already got the LS motor in, it's already got the trans, already has the rear end. I think with that particular example, the only thing that had to be altered, we had to move stretch the wheelbase a little bit because the Fast 9 Charger had about a 4 or 5 inch longer wheelbase. We moved the front wheels forward in the fender.
Is there anything in your contract says you can't build an extra one?
An extra one? Yeah.
An extra car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't go.
The reason I asked, hold on, I was at an auction over the weekend. The 94 Super, you know this, went for $550,000. People were going crazy, like $550,000. It was just a crazy number. Appeal, shitload of money. Now,
Yeah,
even if they hit the same dirt, was on set and could take a picture of it, VIN number, Dennis, make me another Charger, 69, 68 Charger, duplicate to the one that's in the hero car. Is that in your contract that you can't do that?
You know, I've never really read through that, but I would assume that would be a no-go zone. People clone these cars constantly. I was shocked. I was watching that too, and I thought, okay, it's going to bring a couple hundred. That was kind of the number I had in my mind. It's a cool car, very, very iconic car to the franchise. But I was pretty blown away that it brought 550. I mean, it kind of tells you, it just gives you a glimpse into the popularity of this franchise and how much people are just completely into it because, that one was a staggering number for us.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with you with that one because if there's something, we need to talk. But anyhow, keep it fair, Dennis. Keep it fair. That's huge money. It's huge money, and it goes on forever. I mean, if you had, let's say, the American Graffiti cars or anything that's in history, you're the George Barris of the day.
Yeah.
People are stepping over. You are. I spent time today with George talking shit. I see a lot of similarities. I actually sat with Hal Needham, Smokey and the Bandit, talked to him about the Trans Ams. Yeah. He said none of those cars survived. He said, if you hear that one of them survived, he goes, we beat the shit out of every one of them. And I was always just curious behind the scenes. It was one of my attractions to go, let me talk to Dennis because he's now the king that does this. What happens? Where do they go? If they go to auction, like you're saying, the actors get it. It's their agreement. I want the hero car. I want a car made for me, and it has to stay pristine or whatever happens that they get it. But I'm always curious as to, what if they made another Batmobile? I know there's a shitload of money in building the original.
Right.
But I think one of the Batmobiles you built was out front of the MagnaFlow booth at SEMA 4 years ago, wasn't it?
I think it was 4 years ago, yeah.
Right, that sounds fun. That was a really fun project, and Rich at MagnaFlow is always a huge, huge help to us. I can't even, give that guy enough credit for all he does. I mean, he'll literally come out to the shop and like on that Batmobile or Fast and Furious cars or anything, he'll make the setters right in front of you. He'll mock everything up, he'll TIG weld, he'll get everything set, take it back to his shop, and then he'll come back, a couple weeks later with 10 sets for you. It's incredible what MagnaFlow is capable of down there.
Now, when you're in a situation of a jam, you go from somebody's handing you or sending you an email with the script or what you need of the script, and then you're ramping up your team. It's like, okay, go, we agree. And you're ramping up and saying, I got to bring in my guys. Are your guys movie guys? Or are they car guys? And also, when you know that you're not going to be able to yourself in your shop with whatever your crew is, you know that you can't hit 300 cars or what have you, because I think you told me there's 300 per Furious movie. Do you sub out? Who do you sub to? And how do you make all that? That's a lot of work. Lou was saying, yeah, I'd love to have it. But when you talk about the stress of hitting budget, hitting the schedule, that shit ain't easy. I don't know what they pay you, but I'm sure it's not enough. Just hearing that through, you're thinking to yourself, oh, this is cool, but that's got to be, where's Dennis? Where's Dennis? We want to hang him. Shit ain't right. There's got to be a lot of pressure. Can you explain that part of it for us? I know I just hit a lot of the stuff there, but can you explain?
Yeah, I don't really sub anything out. We get help from a lot of companies, like I mentioned, MagnaFlow, Speedcore, that helped us tremendously with this last Fast 9 Charger that we built. They were huge. They basically gave us they built a really nice chassis for us, and they built an incredible carbon fiber body. So they would show up here at my shop as basically a roller, and then we would assemble it from there. But for the most part, no, everything's pretty much done in house. We do body work. Paint is one thing that we do have to sub a lot of out. There's probably 3 or 4 body shops I use. Jack's Auto Body is a place down the street. I've known the guy for going on 30 years. He's great. He'll work all night for us, do whatever it takes. So there's a lot of over the years, there's a lot of contacts I have that know that what we're up against and understand that there is no hey, I'm sorry, it's not going to be ready. You know, that's not in the vocabulary. You just can't.
Right.
There's a lot behind relying to help make it happen. And you know, and I have a great team of guys, you know, so and I staff accordingly. I mean, on a big car show, we'll have 40, 50 guys here, you know, all working on cars, you know, for 12, 13, 14, sometimes 15 hours a day, sometimes 6 a week. So and it seems like I don't know why it is, but it seems like no matter how well I plan, we're always just crammed at the very end. You know, it's like, you know, we start off, okay, this will be enough time to get everything done. But it seems like when you get to that last 2 weeks, you know, that's when we're going big hours and 7 days a week. It just always compounds to the point where you're a mad rush. And part of that is because on most of these projects, you know, I don't care what studio it is, but it's so frequent that we're building cars, but the script is still being developed. So we might have one game plan, and then all of a sudden that character or a character comes in, or a location changes, and the vehicle requirement is completely different. So that's one of the elements that always, you know, adds to the, you know, to the last minute stress. But
wow.
So
Let's say, go ahead,
John. Go ahead.
Let's say you're doing a Charger. You pick any car, and you're figuring out how many you're going to need as far as outside shots, inside shots. Let's say that they want the actors to flip upside down in the car. How do you go about figuring out what that's supposed to look like? How many are there? I mean, is that easy for you at this point, or is that still paper to the pen trying to calculate what that looks like?
I think the car count's pretty easy. I mean, we usually don't miss on that. And I mean, if it's I mean, I'll just go through a really elaborate one that we just did. That was in a NASCAR race, and it's a crash where the car kind of gets up in the fence. It's kind of like that Carl Edwards crash, you know, where he hits the fence, the carburetor, all that stuff. It's kind of that feel. And that one segment, you know, from the time the car loses it and goes up into the wall to where it's sitting as a burning hulk on the track was, I think, 10 cars.
Wow.
Because it's all shot in different pieces, different elements of it. And that's,
Really?
you know, a joint venture between, you know, my department, special effects, and stunts to make that all work. But, you know, that's what people never realize. They might watch a scene in a movie, think, man, that was amazing. And it might have been, you know, 40 seconds long, but that took, you know, 3 weeks to put that one scene together in 9 vehicles or whatever it is, you know. So there's just, you have to realize in a car crash, every time you see like a different camera angle, you know, there's a good chance that was a different car, you know, because if it's crossing paths or whatever. So, you know, you might want it from here, you might want it there. There might be an interior shot. And it might just be a situation where you can't get all that action in one take. So it's shot in different bits and pieces. So.
Right.
A lot of work, but you know, it's worth the payoff in the end.
Wow, that's cool. So I gotta ask, and I understand if you can't answer it. In 9, what's the deal with the mid-engine Charger? I saw a video that Superfly Auto shot, and it's just freaking awesome. I think it's just cool. So what's the deal with that thing?
So it is an awesome car. It's like I said, I say this, I feel like on every movie, you know, this is my new favorite Charger, but this one really, like the off-road one, this is my favorite. Then you know, it goes on and on. But I was just looking for something different, and you know, as always, I'm always out at SEMA, and I'm always, you know, nosing around and seeing what's cool. And I ran into my good buddies over at Speed Corps, and they were just showing me, you know, something they were working on. It was John Smith, one of their artists, was there you go, was drawing it, and I loved it. I go, you know, this is it. It's just clean. It's nice. I said I like the looks. It's not Fast 8. And I just really wanted that 60s vibe. You know, I wanted that 60s, you know, kind of like a GT40 feel to it. And
yeah,
I figured, you know, you start running out of ideas after these, you know, so many of these films, you have to come with something different. So I thought it's just going to be really cool to put the motor behind the driver's seat. And so that's basically what we did. You know, Chrysler is a huge supporter of the franchise, and it's really as easy as picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, we need, you know, I need 3 Hellcat motors," and boom, you know, there they are. So
you need 4 now. 4.
My only regret, and this was one of the things, it was just too late to change it. If I would start it over again, it's too low. I would have just raised the thing about another inch and a half.
Too low. What are you talking about? What?
It is low. I thought that too when I first looked at it. It's hard to run that.
But the way we had the rear end set up with the independent suspension, we just couldn't raise it without getting into a CV issue. So, but it's great. But it is very low. You know, like I said, it's not a good driveway car. But and the wheels were cool. I don't know if you noticed the wheels, but it's a one-off HRE wheel with a true knockoff, which was another kind of a look I wanted to go for. And then, you know, the fender kind of being open at the rear of the tire was just, I don't know, you know, just kind of felt fast and furious, I guess. So,
yeah,
all kind of come together, and the color was cool, and it was incredibly. We tuned our kind of to Dodge Demon specs, and you know, the only regret I have in this one is that was one of those, you know, finish at the very last minute. I didn't really have a chance to, you know, put that car through the paces, but I'm still planning on doing that. It's actually sitting here in my shop right now, so we'll actually get the thing out to the race and see what it can do.
Yeah. So
That's
what
one of
transmission
one.
did you use in it? What
What's that?
transmission did you use in it?
Totally apologize. 200 yards from Burbank Airport, so that was a plane going by. So
No. What transmission did you use in the Charger?
it's a Lamborghini 6-speed. So it's
Oh,
kind of a Murcielago. It's I forget the exact name of the trans, but it's you know, it's basically becoming a Lamborghini or an Audi. So
Gotcha.
you
That's
probably
crazy.
don't want to, you know, put the thing at, you know, $4,000 and dump the clutch. You know, I wouldn't want to try that with it. But it's a durable piece. It'll handle the horsepower. You know, you don't want to beat on it. You know, obviously,
yeah.
we intended to build 3 of those. We ran out of time. We built 2, which was, you know, more than sufficient. And then we built 7 stunt cars that had my, you know, the typical, you know, late model fuel injected motor, turbo 400, 9-inch. We had a fiberglass version of the Hellcat motor placed in there, and you know, on screen they look great. You can't tell going by. Magnaflow bent up some dummy exhausts that, you know, mimicked what was in the real car, and it worked great. So, and that was what really allowed us to it allowed those cars to survive filming. So they both really came out of it unscathed because we never put them in you know, in a dangerous position. You know, honestly, I haven't seen the final cut of the movie. I was out of town. I missed the premiere, but I'm hoping that there's some shots of the you know, some behind the shoulder or something that shows that motor.
Yeah.
And belt spinning and all the good stuff. So hopefully it comes off on screen as to what we actually built as being a real car. And, you know, we'll see. But, you know, luckily there's guys like you that we can talk about it so people know what goes into them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's just a badass car to me. It really is. I like it. I only saw it that one video that a couple days ago, and it's just like, yeah, it nailed it for me. It's got all the right pieces, you know. That's what I like.
There's just something cool about driving it too. I mean, it's weird too. You sit and drive, and there's no, you know, there's no transom. It's just basically a flat full floor, and,
Right.
and it's incredibly loud. You know, the exhaust is awesome. You hear the motor noise through the piece of Lexan behind you, and just going through the gears going down the street, man. That car is it's a fun driver. I mean, hopefully, like I said, that's a car I would love to end up with, and I would actually go drive the thing around. Put a light.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I wouldn't, you know, like you're saying, you wouldn't run up to $9,000 and let it rip, but that's the keeper.
No, really.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
That's tucked away.
That's the beauty of those Hellcat motors. I mean, they make all that horsepower, and yet they'll start and idle all day. So it's just, you know, it is a car you can actually drive.
I saw somewhere where they gave Vin Diesel, I think it was a Speed Core Charger for his birthday or something. Do you remember seeing any of that? Know anything about it? I think it was on set. Number 8.
I sure did. Said, and granted, that was in London. I wasn't there that day, but yeah, Vin saw that car, and you know, he truly appreciates, you know, fine machinery, and that car's gorgeous, you know. So, and I knew when he saw that car, he was going to want, because that car is much different than a picture car. There's no comparison to that car. You know, picture cars are kind of a little rough, a little crude, a little loud. You know, they're, you know, normally they're not something that you do want to drive every day, but that car is, you know, like you sit inside the car, it's like Mercedes leather, and it's quiet, it's sound insulation, it's great. So, yeah, I knew that was coming, and sure enough, when he saw it, he was dying for it, and his sister Samantha actually set that all up to actually give him the car for his birthday. So it was, I don't know, that's pretty cool. I've never had a birthday present that cool, so I was pretty
no kidding.
Yeah, me neither.
No kidding. Jeez, that's wild. That's a good time.
He has impressive collection too. I gotta say, he's got 10 or 12 cars in his collection. So,
all right.
Dennis,
So
go ahead.
45 minutes. You guys, if you want to call in, remember the number is 215-496-1892. We're taking calls now. Remember, use common sense. Don't be a moron.
Dennis, you know, some of what you do reminds me of Q from James Bond. You know what I'm talking about, where he's got to explain to James Bond, this is what this lever does. This is this trick. This is how you drive this.
yeah,
Which also, I mean, not everybody's as smooth and as cool as James Bond was supposed to be. Do you ever come across an actor, you don't have to name names, that you knew once they got in a car, they didn't know shit about how to drive a stick or didn't know what they were looking at? You're like, oh boy, we may be in trouble. You ever come across that? And I know they're putting it on a trailer. They're making it look like they're reading through their lines, but just, you know, they have to move it from A to B and you're going, oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
and that is the most shocking things in this day and age is how few people actually drive a stick-shift car. I mean, it's just one story. I was doing a movie called War Dogs, and we were down in El Centro by the border, and we had this terrorist scene where I had a couple Toyota Land Cruisers, and they just had to pull up and stop. They only had to drive like 30 feet for the shot. It was kind of making a roadblock, and I think there was like probably 30 or 40 extras, you know, on set that day. And when they started asking, you know, who here can drive a stick shift? This is like 30 or 40 extras. None of them could.
What?
You know, and it's like, then the directors yell at me, why'd you bring these cars with clutch pedals? It's like, well, that's the only way these old Land Cruisers came. There was no automatic. So anyways, we had to test a couple of my mechanics as terrorists and put them in the cars to, so, yeah, you know, it's just.
That's what I was thinking. There was a story like that where you go, what the hell? Now what? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you really can't. I mean, I do blame them, but, you know, nowadays it's so hard to find a manual transmission car. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
my own mother, who's 75 years old, she drives a 4 Series BMW, the manual trans that she leased, you know, 3 years ago, and she went to go, you know, turn to get another one, and they don't make it in a manual anymore. And so she bought it. She goes, I'm not driving. She's 75. She goes, I'm not driving an automatic, so I'm gonna have to keep this car. So
That's awesome. There was a commercial, I believe it was a Volkswagen commercial, where these two guys are riding around in the car all day, all these different driving shots. They pull up in front of the apartment building that they're going in, and they get to the door to go in, and the guy hits the fob, so it beeps, and the other guy goes, hey man, the windows are down. He goes, it's a stick. And they go in the house.
it's like the new theft deterrent, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I did. That's what they were getting at.
The next, you know? It's not far from the truth at all.
It's so funny, man.
Yes. Did you have, God rest his soul, you have a chance to work with Paul Walker, get close, talk to him, get to know him?
Oh, yeah, of course. You know, he was a true great friend and one of the greatest guys you've ever met. I mean, just, you know, give you the shirt. He's the give you the shirt off his back kind of guy, you know, no doubt. So,
yeah.
Really, really a nice guy, though. I mean, and truly into cars. He loved his cars. He loved driving cars. I mean, you know, he had a business. He was going to make Porsche exhaust. I mean, I think he liked cars more than he liked being an actor. You know, the acting just paid for his cars. But
yeah, paid for the hobby. Yeah, that's all.
The reason I bring that up is because I get the impression he's the exact opposite of what we just talked about. A guy that got in a car and doesn't know how to, you know, let the clutch out without popping it and make it bounce all over the place. He seemed like he really lived you know, he played the role and lived the life.
Yeah, he would prefer to be on the second unit stunt side of things for sure. You know, he loved driving cars, loved driving fast, and you know, like I said, just a great guy. And it's just last week I was talking with his brother Cody. We sent some cars out to his Fuel Fest event out in Irwindale. So, you know, his brother's a great guy and kind of keeping that legacy going on, and puts on a great event. So
that's cool. That's very cool. So what's the deal with Mustangs with Polaris drivetrains or Polaris chassis stuffed under them? What's the deal with that?
Yeah, so that was just basically like the most challenging environment ever. It was down in Thailand in the jungle. When I say jungle, I mean like the jungle. You know, like this really sticky, weird red clay mud. So you know, when you read the script, and it's like, and that was actually a choice of Justin. He really wanted the Mustang. He felt it was a good car to counter the Charger. So when I read that, I go, man, this isn't going to end well at all, you know. And I haven't been to Thailand, and my guys were calling me from there. He goes, dude, you're not going to believe, you know, how challenging this is. Even like in a 4-wheel drive Jeep, it's challenging to drive through this.
Right.
You know, we had to come up with something that would go anywhere. So we took a Polaris 1000, and luckily Speedcore makes a carbon fiber Mustang, which I don't know if you guys have seen that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so they used to build like a late model carbon fiber Mustang. So they had all the body panels in carbon fiber. So basically a, you know, Speedcore carbon fiber body, and just put that on top of a Polaris 1000 once we altered the wheelbase. And we didn't have to do any interior. We just tinted the windows. So it was literally just a race seat and, you know, the relocated Polaris controls. And it, you know, obviously that's going to go anywhere. The 4-wheel drive was still fully functional. So you could still select from, you know, 2-wheel or 4-wheel drive. And then for the Charger that's next to it, we took a, I don't know if you ever follow short course racing, but there's a class called Pro Light, which is a V8 powered, more like a mini truck size.
Yeah.
So we basically got a couple of Pro Light race trucks, and, you know, same thing. We didn't have to adjust the wheelbase surprisingly very much. It was just a couple of inches. Chopped the top of the cage off, and did take complete Chargers and basically hollow them out and set that shell over the top of these race trucks. And then boom, voila, there you got something that'll go anywhere. You know,
yeah.
Two things, Dennis. Talk about flipping the Grand National so it could do 70 miles an hour in reverse. And the second, you were on the phone with me a couple of years ago. You were telling me about FedEx and a car to Europe because they wrecked it, needed one overnight, loaded the thing up. The paint was still wet. And I was laughing, going, man, it sounds cool until there's a crunch time where they're going to shut down production and your phone's ringing at 12 o'clock at night going, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? Can you tell us about the Grand National and FedExing?
Yeah, well, the Grand National was a very cool. That was really one of my favorite sequences too out of this franchise. I mean, it was that was kind of just all my favorite stuff wrapped up into one scene. You know, I mean, I love the old Chevy square bodies. I love the 67, 68 Chevy trucks. So it just kind of that was early on. It just kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of do whatever I wanted. And the one before I get to the Grand National, one of my biggest regrets of that scene was we built 3 of the 6-wheeled square body trucks, but one of them threw 4-wheel drive in the back. And, you know, we went out and tested, and man, you could do donuts in that thing all day. The smoke was unbelievable, just smoking all 4 tires, you know. And I really wanted a shot of that thing like parked on the side of the road and just coming onto the highway, you know, kind of sideways sliding, smoking all 4 tires. And unfortunately, that didn't make it into the movie. But moving on, that was just still one of those things that I still cringe that it didn't happen, because when you watch it, you would never know that it could actually spin all 4 tires. And then the scene going backwards, obviously, it's at a great deal of speed. And it's not even so much the speed. It's just in a situation like that, Stunts has, you know, Letty actually literally on the hood of the car. So granted, she's cabled off the front, but it's a very, you know, it's a serious stunt. It's nothing that you can take lightly. So everything has to be as controllable as possible. So speed was one element, but the true reason for doing that is so the steering would be, you know, in the front of where the car was headed. So,
right.
You know, and we do a lot of these cars. There's a lot of calls for backwards driving cars. And in this particular case, it was just a matter of, you know, lifting the body off, spinning the body around, and putting it back on. You know, luckily those Buicks are a full frame car, so they're very easy to work with. You know, obviously, if it was a subframe car, we'd be scratching our heads a little bit longer on it. But with a real frame, you can, you know, flip it around and go.
How much time did that take? I mean, that seems like it's intense. How much time would that take to flip that thing around and make it work?
That was probably, you know, a couple of weeks, you know, 2-3 weeks, I would say max to do that. And we didn't really do much else. It was actually I believe that was a Buick T-type. So,
Yeah.
You know, so it had some power, ran good. It was a B when we got it, but we didn't really put a great deal of effort into it other than just flipping it around and, you know, making it go backwards. And as far as moving cars, you know, with FedEx or, you know, whatever carrier we're using, that's been done much more times than just once. You know, it's and it's usually, I'll say most of the time, it's not due to destroying a car or wrecking a car. It's usually more to you know, an evolving story, or we need another car here, or hey, we want this car in this location. So That's done all the time on multiple different films. Like I said, not out of the ordinary and very expensive.
Yeah.
All the film we just had a quote. It was actually moving some large trucks, across the world, really. But it was $1 million to get a plane that would handle it all. We came up with a plan. $1 million wasn't spent, but I'm just saying that's one of those things that does come up quite frequently. And if planned right, I mean, a lot of times if you plan it correctly, you say, hey, we're going to fly the cars, you can literally rent out an entire 747 packed with cars. And if you have the whole plane yourself, financially, it's not that bad, but definitely comes in handy when you're on a tight schedule and you're in multiple locations.
Man, that's crazy. So, who are your favorite actors to work with, and what's your favorite car besides the mid-engine Charger?
I'm not going to single out an actor because then all the other ones go, hey, man, I thought I was your favorite.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking that, but yeah, I get it.
No, but I
podcast host.
they're all great. I mean, I'm just trying to think through. I can't say I work with anybody that I don't like. I mean, they've all been really cool. I mean, I did work with Pierce Brosnan on a film once. He was extremely cool. James Bond reminded me of him. When you say a really cool guy like James Bond, he really is like James Bond. He's that cool. And obviously the whole cast of the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, they're all great, and they are. I mean, I know the word family is overdone, but it really is. We come back to these movies, and it's everybody knows.
Right.
But no, I really haven't worked with anybody that I can say that I didn't like. Yeah, it's always been a great experience. But
that's way cool.
Now we know you got I saw the trailer. You got a '86 Fiero with a jet engine on it, which looks like it's Back to the Future almost.
Right.
That car and the mid-engine. What else are we going to see in Fast 9 that you can highlight? That's got. I mean, that's. I saw the trailer. It looks like it's shooting through the air or something crazy, and I'm like, all right, okay. And I know that's an older car. I mean, that's 86 is a million miles away from now. Dennis, what else are we going to see in 9 coming out? And are you working on 10 now, or is 10 around the corner?
Just coming up, so I won't say I'm working on it yet, but that's dangerously close.
Dangerous close. Yeah.
And regarding the Fiero, I mean, I don't know. That car was not my idea. And someone just asked me that yesterday. What's behind that? And I really have to ask Justin. I do know that it was definitely going to be a Pontiac Fiero. So I'm not sure what the significance, but I think it's. My guess is it's just the comedy aspect of it. It's just a funny car.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's something you've never seen before. A Fiero with a jet strap on the top of it. So
yeah.
What's in 9 that you're proud of? And we could go another 2 hours really, because I want to know have they ever approached you and went, what do you want it to do? How do you want it to do? What? You know what I'm saying? Going, I can't make that happen. Come up in 9 that you're proud of. That you need to see this, so it teases the film, so it does what you do.
Yeah, I mean, 9's full of great stuff. I mean, it really is. And I mean, sometimes I like to go just back. I like to back up a little bit into more basic cars. For instance, if you've seen the trailer, you see Letty in a Nova. And it's one of those cars. When you see it, it's not really elaborate. It's not really over the top. There's no body modifications. It's just a cool an old school hot rod, as I like to call
it. Yeah.
Beyond that, there's some great off-road stuff in Act 1. And oddly enough, Fast 9 doesn't have quite the volume of cars as some of the past ones.
Really?
Now, I mean, there's a lot of cars and the action's bigger, but as far as, it seems like a lot of the sequences don't have quite as many cars as we would normally have for like a hero action vehicle piece. But what we do have is, it's all great stuff. We brought the new Super back. That was something that I just felt was kind of the timing was right. It had just come out, and the Toyota Supra has always been, as we know, by the 550,000, kind of iconic towards the franchise. So that's a car that Han drives in the series. In the opening act, we had some really, really cool, basically off-road race cars that were kind of the villain vehicles that are, chasing down Dom and Letty. We brought the motorcycle element into it with some Yamaha 450s, an awesome bike. It's actually, same bike that two of my kids ride, out in the desert all the time. So, once again, I always seem to get a lot of my favorite things into these movies. And I blew over your question of what my other favorite car is. And that's one of those hardest questions because I don't know, maybe my mood changes or times change, and I move around on that one a lot. It's kind of a moving target. But one thing that you reminded me of in that one little clip you pulled up there of the Tokyo Drift Warehouse was at Monte Carlo. That really was one of my all-time favorite cars.
Yeah.
Kind of a car I built as if I were going to build it for myself. Less the primer and the unfinished metalwork on it. That was one thing that I kind of went back and forth with, saying a car guy wouldn't really roll out with an unprimered, unpainted fender and roof, because it's
right.
I said I was shooting for matte black primer. Went to the tan primer, okay, fine, but obviously I lost that battle because the car has a we went through a lot of clear coat to keep that set and it's actually true. If you left a raw seal roof the next morning, it's going to be a different color.
Yeah.
So, but that was a really cool car that I'll always remember because that was really the first car ever in my career of doing this that I was able to build something that I really dig. Build something the way I wanted to. The way I wanted it to be. And there was a couple cars were really nice. One car in particular, oddly enough, I just regained possession of it. It moved around to I think 4 or 5 different owners, and some guy tracked me down out of Oklahoma. Said, "Hey, I've seen you. I know you like this car. Do you want to buy it back?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I want to buy it back." So, anyways, wired some money, sent a truck out to grab it, and it's currently in my shop right now, just being restored. So
that's awesome. That's cool. That's cool that the guy did that for you.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, I hate to say this, but our time is up, man.
Hey, it was a pleasure.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I had a great time just chatting with you. It was good. So,
Dennis, we're gonna have you back, especially and we talked about this before. I don't know if you remember years ago, but I could never understand why even Universal, NBC, or anybody doesn't do a series just on you building these cars. I ran to Motor Trend, said, "Listen, you guys are missing out because some of these movies are doing $1 billion as a built-in audience, and to be able to drop this series just before its release seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, I'm no genius, but to go, this is what you're going to see, this is the workup, here it is, and then have the movie drop in a week seems like it makes fucking sense. I mean, really." Why would you not? Especially if you're a car guy, because the movie was based on, it's car guy stuff. Yeah. It's definitely, you're not into it because of the explosions. You're into it because of the car stuff and the characters.
Yeah.
It just seems to make sense.
You're totally right. And the bummer is that a lot of the car guys never see what's under the skin of these things. I know that right. I'm sure we'll take this minute to charge it to see him in somebody's booth, but I want to, lift the hood off the thing, kind of like the old, Plymouth Roadrunner style where it's, up or whatever, and pull the rear hatch off maybe the same way, just so people can see, what really goes into it. I try to do that with that. You mentioned MagnaFlow and the Batmobile. I pitched this to Warner Brothers. I said, "Hey, we had 2 of those cars. Let's have one there, as seen on film. Let's do the other one with no body on it." But that was a no sale. But it would just, I think people would really appreciate it if they saw what's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And,
that's because the suits don't get it. They're not car guys. They don't own a toolbox. They're like, here, you own a toolbox, you figure it out. But the suits don't understand what the key to that is. And the further, I'm going to be serious here, the further Fast gets away from racing and cars and gets it more into the sci-fi shit, it's going to fade out. And I know number 10 is supposed to be the last one, right?
You never know. We'll see.
I know. If making $1 billion a film, they're going to figure something out. I get it.
Yeah, they're going to want to stick around.
From what I
hope not, because I love doing it. So hopefully.
I agree. Dennis, before we let you roll, what are you working on now that we can look forward to and keep an eye on going forward? Who do we follow on Instagram to see your work and see what's happening and what's going on?
I'm going to have to get like my own social media guy because I just I'm not good at it, and I don't think I've posted anything for like 7 years or something. So I have to catch up on that. It's one of these days, but. Yeah, we're doing a couple of big projects right now. One of them I can't really talk about it, but it's a big car movie. It's with a different studio. It's huge though. It's going to be massive, and it's outside of a Fast and Furious movie, it's one of these franchises that has more cars than anything else, and it's been a real blast. And then I did mention my good friend J.J. Perry. We're doing this really cool stunt movie, and I know he won't mind me talking about it, but it's a movie that's action-packed, kind of old school. It's going to be great. You guys are going to love it. So, you know, the fun never stops. It just keeps getting more challenging, I guess, is the best way to put it. But
Dennis, keep this alive. Don't let it go. The next generation, 2 or 3, has got to be into it like we are, for sure. Otherwise, they're looking at their phones with their nose pressed up against the screen, thinking this is what life's about.
Yeah, so yeah, they've all got a muscle car, and they've all got, and every one of my kids' cars has a clutch belt. So
there you go.
I mean, you got to. I mean, when we were kids, American Graffiti was a shit. The whole car was just. I mean, the whole movie was just about cars. Nowadays, you know, everybody's got a cell phone and don't go out and don't do no bicycle, no wrenches, no nothing. Yeah, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Listen, the door is always open. We're working on a project we're talking about. Hit us up. Come on back, because there's at least 2 more hours just right now to be able to talk about a little down the future. And
I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, man. It's been a blast.
Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it, man.
Talk to you a little bit.
All right, everybody. Next week is Troy Ladd, and we're doing Power Tour. So I got to get with DEI. We're going to hammer out a few things with that, and then we're good to go. If you want to get with us, if you want to email us, you can always do it at 3lefts, no apostrophe, at gmail.com. That's Gmail. And the other thing is we got I think I said it earlier, but I made a faux pas. It's Tom Bailey, the guy with the fastest streetcar. I feel bad about it. Huh?
I think I messed that up. I was looking through text messages trying to keep the count.
I don't know. I might have said it, but it's fine. But anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next week, Troy Ladd of Hollywood Hot Rods. Come by, share, like, do all that stuff that you do. Tell your friends, all right? Remember, the only way this is going to grow is with your help. And we'll see you guys next week. John, say goodbye.
Later, goodbye.
For more than 25 years, DEI has been controlling heat and sound, all with products developed to protect components and drivers alike, and has become the standard by which all heat and sound control is measured. Each product is developed with solutions to problems in mind. DEI knows when it comes to making and keeping horsepower, heat is the enemy. Innovative technology allows us to develop the highest quality products, quality driven, and that's why the best builders and race teams in the world use DEI.